What's up, Dan?
Not much. You?
Same.
Okay.
So let's continue our theme. We just did a piece where we talked a little bit about Progressive Insurance and the waitress doesn't need to know your name and all that kind of stuff. And I wanted to talk a little bit about farmers. And as we were prepping, State Farm came into play and then came in this no jingle or mascot group and all that kind of stuff. But what's interesting to me is farmers took the weirdest, strangest nonsense that's gone on when it comes to claims that their employees talk about a lot behind the scenes, and they put it on public display. They hired a serious actor, they put it out there, and they said, here's some of the funny stuff that goes on in our world, and it resonates with people. They remember. Lee, who's on with us once in a while, her father worked for State Farm for years, and now her sister does. And she told us, unbeknownst to us, that Barry Manilow wrote the jingle for State Farm. So there's kind of a lot of odd connecting points, but things that resonate, things where if a tune starts, will finish in our head, even if it doesn't continue in the background, sort of thing. So talk about why those kinds of things are memorable and why that memorable aspect is so important in sales.
It hits on the emotion.
Yeah.
And emotion is all about sales. So an example, some of you know that I'm involved in acting, and we're putting on a play called It's a Wonderful Life. It's the radio version. And so on that stage will be a whole sound effects table with all these little things that you can do to make the wind sound or the sound of the splash in the water or the knock on the door or whatever, blah, blah. But here's the thing. If we were to do a video on that, I could sit here and talk about it.
Yeah.
That would have a minimal impact. But if I took a camera and went over to the Foley table and showed you the different things and how they made certain sound effects, man, that hits the emotion much more impactful. And so that's the key. Really great salespeople, in my opinion, have the way of evoking emotion out of the prospect and then emotionally helping them solve that.
There we go. So the pain comes to the surface and
let me show you how to solve it and what it's going to take.
And I think equally important, those great salespeople at times, that pain will come to the surface and will right at the prospect and say, I can't help you. Here's why. Here's who may be able to. That's not what I do. They don't try and fill every void.
Yeah. And so when you look at, like, a lot of times companies will have meetings and they'll go, here's what we're trying to do, blah, 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 blah. Oh, okay. But how does this impact people?
Yeah.
And the question of, well, why even do it? That the emotion, that's the key. Sometimes we get so intellectual mumbo jumbo stuff, we forget about the pure emotion that's at stake.
Yep. And that drives everything in sales, whether we want it to or not.
Everything.
All right, buddy. See you again tomorrow.
Have fun.